He's always been an athlete, but 3 years ago, at just 17 years old, Mason Branstrator's active lifestyle was changed forever.
I was going for an ordinary day of downhill skiing, but this time it was a lot different. I remember thinking, right as I left the jump, I'm going a little fast, and that was the last thing I remember before everything went black.
He broke his T12 vertebrae and was paralyzed. An avid runner, soccer player, and skier, Mason couldn't wrap his mind around the fact he may never walk again.
In the ICU, multiple doctors came into my room and said, "Mason, you might not be able to walk again." And in the eyes and mind of somebody who was 17 and I had no idea what was going on, that was devastating.
He could have been pessimistic, but he says his parents raised him to focus on the good. And while in rehab at Craig Hospital in Denver, he started applying that positive mindset.
The first time I got in a wheelchair in rehab, I felt so free. And we have this video of me with the biggest smile ever, and I couldn't contain it. In this really hard situation, you're given freedom and independence, and I've always been so grateful for my wheelchair. And people look at the wheelchair and say, you know, that sucks, like it's awful to be limited to using a wheelchair, but this wheelchair doesn't limit me, it actually is my freedom.
After rehab, Mason returned home to Minnesota, where he became homecoming king. And after graduating high school, he decided to go back to Colorado, enrolling at the University of Denver, which is nearby Craig Hospital, a place he now visits not as a patient, but as a mentor. Still, he says being in a wheelchair is not easy, and it takes him longer to do most things people take for granted. But that hasn't prevented him from living life and playing sports, even though he can only take a few steps here and there.
Around a year and a half after my accident, I had come to the point of realizing that walking was not going to be a very functional thing for me to keep pursuing. And it was time to look into everything else the wheelchair world had to offer. And I had all of these people giving me offers to come play adaptive sports and try them out, but I was pushing it back. And I finally realized it's time to just live life and experience all of these opportunities that are being presented to me. And when I started saying yes, that's when things really changed for me.
Mason is now embarking on a new athletic challenge, a marathon. This summer, he'll return to his hometown for the race. But it's not the finish line of his journey to inspiring others. It's just the start.
When I was 17, on my way home from a fishing trip with my dad, I remember asking him and telling him that I really had this dream of helping people, but I had no idea how I would get there. 2 days following telling him that, I woke up in the ICU and the doctors informed me that I was paralyzed.
After the accident, he realized he now has a way to help others, sharing his journey and message of optimism on social media.
At the start, I wanted to find people like me, and then it just kept evolving and more people caught on to my story. People that weren't paralyzed started being inspired, and I just loved doing it and kept putting out all of the things that I thought were ordinary. You know, this is just my life now. All the sports I do, basketball, cross-country skiing, tennis, surfing, you know, it's just normal.
There's no doubt the accident changed his life, but it put him on a new track to help others.
There were a couple moments where people have reached out to me and said, I used your method to do something, and it really changed my life, changed how I interacted with the world, and changed my perception of this new normal, living in the wheelchair, or just living life with adversity. There's been multiple moments where I realized that my dream of helping people has come true, and I'm living it out right now.